Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back to our channel. This is the Crime Time Tales News, and today we are going to look into the horrific murder of Jaren Lockhart. Jaren Lockhart was a 22-year-old woman who worked as a dancer at this strip club in New Orleans, Louisiana. On June 6, 2012, Jaren finished her shift and left the club with two customers, 28-year-old Terry Speaks and 31-year-old Margaret Sanchez. The following morning, Jaren's dismembered body parts began washing up on the shores of the Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. Her head and her torso were eventually found, but her arms, legs, and other body parts were never recovered. This is why, guys, you have to be very careful who you are dealing with, who you trust, and hanging around with strangers that you don't know. During the investigation, it was revealed that Jaren had tortured and dismembered over a period of several days before her death. Terry Speaks and Margaret Sanchez were allegedly involved in the torture, and it was believed that they had killed Jaren to cover up their actions. At trial, both defendants maintained their innocence, but the evidence against them was very strong. Margaret Sanchez eventually pled guilty to manslaughter and obstruction of justice and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Terry Speaks was found guilty of second-degree murder and obstruction of justice and was sentenced to life in prison. The case gained national attention due to the gruesome nature of the crime and the fact that Jaren Lockhart's body was dismembered and part of it was never found. The murder of Jaren Lockhart was a particularly brutal and gruesome crime that shocked the community and gained national attention. The investigation into the death revealed a disturbing series of events that ultimately led to the arrest and conviction of two suspects. Jaren's dismembered body parts were found over the period of several days along the shores of St. Louis, Mississippi. The authorities were able to identify Jaren through her tattoos, dental records, and DNA analysis. It was determined that Jaren had been tortured and dismembered before her death, with her arms, legs, and other body parts never been recovered. Terry Speaks and Margaret Sanchez were identified as suspects in Jaren's murder, and the authorities were able to trace their movement on the night of the crime through surveillance footage and cell phones records. It was discovered that they had left the strip club with Jaren and had driven to their apartment in nearby Kenner, Louisiana. During the investigation, the authorities searched the apartment of Terry Speaks and Margaret Sanchez and found evidence linking them to the crime. The evidence included blood stain, a bloody sore, and a box containing Jaren's clothing and personal belongings. At the trial, both Terry Speaks and Margaret Sanchez maintained their innocence, but the evidence against them was overwhelming. Margaret Sanchez eventually pled guilty to manslaughter and obstruction of justice and was sentenced to 40 years in prison. Terry Speaks was found guilty of second-degree murder and obstruction of justice and was sentenced to life in prison without parole. The murder of Jaren Lockhart was a senseless and brutal crime that left her family and loved ones devastated. The case serves as a reminder of the importance of law enforcement and the criminal justice system in bringing justice to victims of violence and crimes. Thank you very much for listening, guys. Thank you for staying with us. And it's heartbreaking going through this case. It was very difficult just reading through what this lady gone through. All Jaren wanted to do was work hard and support her child. However, there's monsters like this that did what they done to her, which is absolutely horrible. I refuse to even repeat their names again. But you guys tell me what you think. Drop your comments below. And guys, help our channel by liking the video and support the movement. And don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much. Look after one another. Look after yourselves. And I'll see you soon.